Hello, and welcome to the special edition of Video English. We will be presenting you with a series of new and exciting features. In Globetrotter, Julian Norwich will take us to visit York, one of Europe's most interesting and historic cities. We will also be dealing with how to ask for directions, how to get people to speak more slowly, and how to do a little shopping. In Global Manager, our special business feature, we will be talking to Susan Norman, an expert on management and language training. To end this edition, Professor Hughes will round off the elements of grammar we've been concentrating on in the preceding lessons. So fasten your seatbelts. We're off to York.
Globetrotter.
Is it time to begin?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, who goes first?
You go first.
Oh, okay. Today we're off to the city of York, which is over 200 miles from London.
What's that in kilometers?
Oh, I don't know. About 320, I should think. Anyway, it's about a 4-hour drive from London.
Or 3 hours by intercity train.
York, or Erboracum, as the Romans called it, was founded in the year 71 BC.
I think you mean AD.
Oh, right. It stands on the River Ouse, which links York to the sea. This made it an important trading centre, especially during the time of the Vikings.
Ah, and there's a young descendant of the Vikings.
And I suppose that's a Roman fisherman.
No, the Romans had all gone home by the time the Vikings arrived.
Which was in the year 627.
I think you mean 827.
Oh, right. And they sailed up this very river. They came first as raiders, then as settlers, and renamed the city Jorvik. Viking rule ended with the arrival of the Normans in 1066.
That's right.
Oh, thanks, that was an easy one. The Normans destroyed the city of Jorvik and then rebuilt it and made it the center of government and religion in the north.
And that building on the right?
That's the Guildhall. It was built sometime around the middle of the 15th century.
Wasn't it damaged in an air raid during the Second World War?
Right. But it's since been beautifully restored. And that's Lendal Bridge.
It looks fairly new.
Well, in fact, it was built in the mid-19th century, a time of great prosperity for the city of York, as it became the center of an extensive railway empire.
So where to?
I thought we could start our visit to York by going for a walk around the city walls.
Okay, let's go.
These medieval walls enclosed the old city, and it would take us at least 2 hours to walk all the way around them. But unfortunately, we don't have time for it today.
Oh, gee, that's too bad.
The walls were built more than 700 years ago on the site of an even earlier defense system built by the Anglo-Danish kings.
Who are some of the famous people born here?
Well, Guy Fawkes, for example.
Remember the 5th of November.
Well done. Another is the poet, W.H. Auden.
Time will say nothing, but I told you so.
Donna, you have an amazing memory.
Thanks. Now where are we going?
Why don't we go to the Viking Museum before it closes? I think it's down that way.
Are you sure?
Of course I'm sure. Donna, I was born here.
I think we should ask a policeman, just to be on the safe side.
Well, let's ask this chap. Excuse me, how do we get to the Viking Museum?
Go down there to the end of the street. Turn right, cross the square diagonally, and it's right there. You can't miss it.
Okay. Cheers.
Thanks very much. Is it much farther?
No, it's just around the corner.
Oh, good, because I'm getting a little hungry. Oh, no.
Never mind, Donna. Believe me, it's worth queuing for. We're actually directly below the streets of the centre of York. It was here that during a 5-year dig, a group of archaeologists uncovered an entire area of Viking Jorvik. Life in 10th century Jorvik, the children at play, people going about their daily business, the streets, the houses and the workshops have all been accurately recreated so that you can see, hear,
And smell.
and smell exactly what it was like to live and work in the Viking city of Jorvik.
And now for a word from our professor.
William. Hello. I hope you're enjoying your visit to York. The old part of the city is a maze of narrow streets, and it's very easy to get lost. So I'd like to give you the opportunity to practice asking for directions. Remember when Julian and Donna were trying to find the Viking Museum?
How do we get to the Viking Museum?
The simplest formula for asking for directions is: how do we get to plus your destination. Let's go back to York and practice this.
How do we get to the Viking Museum?
The Viking Centre, you go down to the end, to the traffic lights, turn right, then immediately left. It takes you to the Viking Centre.
Thank you very much. How do we get to the Minster?
It's over there. Go up there, turn right, cross the street, go around the corner, and it's there on the right.
Is it far?
I don't know, about 5 minutes, something like that.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Okay, you're welcome.
Of course, if you have to ask someone for information in another language, there's no guarantee you'll understand what he or she says. They may speak too fast or have an unfamiliar accent. So here are some strategies for handling this situation. Excuse me, how do we get to the Viking Museum?
Viking Centre. You go down to the end, to traffic lights. Turn right, immediately left. Takes you to the Viking Centre.
Could you speak more slowly, please?
The Viking Centre, you go down to the end, to the traffic lights, turn right, then immediately left. It takes you to the Viking Centre.
Is the shambles far from here?
About 5 minutes.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
It's down there. It's about 5 minutes. It's all right, yeah.
One way of avoiding this situation is, of course, to buy a map of the city. On the other hand, it's much more fun to try out your English, don't you think? And now, back to York.
York Minster is the largest medieval cathedral in Northern Europe. Every year, more than 1 million people come from all over the world to admire this superb example of Gothic architecture. The well-kept gardens surrounding the Minster provide a place for both the tourists and the citizens of York to take a break, eat a picnic lunch, or simply rest in the shade. Work on the Minster was begun around 1220 by Archbishop Walter Gray. The lavish scale of his project required the skills of masters of every craft. The Archbishop himself admitted that money destined for the poor was being used to help carry out his ambitious plan. In fact, he wrote, "The expense is great, but some of our beggars must needs go hungry for the greater glory of God." The Minster took 250 years to build and was completed and consecrated in 1472. 500 years later, the Minster celebrated its anniversary with the completion of a massive restoration program costing some £2 million. One of the Minster's greatest treasures is its wealth of stained glass. The great east window covers some 2,000 square feet, which is approximately the size of a tennis court. At the apex, God is depicted with the words, "Ego sum alpha et omega." I am the beginning and the end. An inscription just inside the entrance to the magnificent octagonal chapter house reads, "Ut rosa flos florum, sic est domus ista domorum." As the rose is the flower of flowers, so this is the house of houses. Now we're going to see what is perhaps the most famous street in York. It used to be full of butcher shops, and it's called the Shambles.
I think I read something about a haunted house somewhere around here.
That's right. It's the house of Margaret Clitheroe, a butcher's wife, who during a time of religious persecution opened her house to refugee priests. She was martyred in 1586. They say that those who enter her house with minor ailments come out cured and refreshed.
Maybe she could do something for my feet.
While there are now very few butcher shops left in the Shambles, the nearby open market is still alive and bustling.
It doesn't look very bustling now.
They must be closing down for the day. It is getting late.
I haven't done so much walking in ages, but I'm really enjoying it. Where to now?
Well, I'm afraid we've got to go.
Oh. Doesn't time fly when you're having fun?
Right. Cheers.
Bye. And now for a word from our professor.
One of the pleasures of visiting a new place is looking for some small souvenir to take home as a reminder of the pleasant time you spent there. Let's have a look at some of the language you need to do this.
How much is this?
£3.99.
That's a bit too expensive. And this?
£3.95.
And how much is this?
See? £2.95.
I'll take it.
How much are these?
Those are 4 bunches for £1 or 30p each.
Okay, I'll take 4 bunches, please.
Right, right.
Let's see that again, and don't forget to repeat the questions.
How much is this?
It's £3.99.
That's a bit too expensive. And this?
See, it's £3.95.
And how much is this?
That's £2.95.
I'll take it.
How much are these?
Those are 4 bunches for £1 or 30p each, dear.
Okay, I'll take 4 bunches, please.
Right.
And here's a formula for those of you who only want to browse without buying anything.
Can I help you, dear?
Oh, no, thank you. I'm just looking.
Just looking. We don't charge for looking.
And now let's see some more of York.
Global Manager. While they were in York, Julian and Donna spoke to Susan Norman, who runs a conference center in County Durham. Susan is also the author of a number of textbooks on business English, one of which has sold more copies than any other publication of its kind.
Susan, tell me what you do.
Well, basically, I write business English textbooks. I'm a teacher of business English, and I also have a business with my husband running a conference centre.
Business English? Tell me about that.
Well, I originally got into it by mistake because you got more money for teaching business people than you did teaching general English. But once I'd started, I found I actually enjoyed it a lot more. There seemed to be more point teaching people for a reason, you know, something they specifically needed, rather than people who just came along and said, I want to know English. And I found the people I was working with were very interesting.
What's the difference between business English and regular English?
Everybody needs grammar and vocabulary, but you need specific business skills, and you've got more of a focus for teaching. And the thing that I enjoy is the mix of management skills and business English together. So the sorts of exercises we use for teaching business English are the same sorts of things people are using when they're on management training courses. So you've got the double thrust when we do it, and it's fun.
Can you give me an example of the kind of exercise you give to people?
Well, for career planning, the way I plan my own career, in fact, is I ask people to write, if they can cope with it, I ask them to write their own obituary. But some people don't like that very much. So
Why is that?
Some people don't like the idea of death. I find it makes it more up-to-date and makes you think harder. But those people who can't do that, ask them to write their 100th birthday announcement in the newspaper. And what they do is decide what they want to be written about them when they're 100, which means they have to decide whether they're family people or business people, or whether they want to have travelled the world. When you've actually done the obituary, or hopefully the the 100th birthday celebration, what you do then is you plan your career forward, and you look at the difference between where you are now and where you want to be when you're 100. When I was planning my career, I was very much aware of being a woman and wanting to get married at some stage and wanting to be able to pick up and put down whatever I did. So I went into publishing because it was interesting, and business English. And then what I tried to do was get as much range of experience as possible so that I would be employable anywhere in the world at any stage. And then I tried to do everything I could as well as I could.
Did you find as a woman that you came up against many obstacles?
No. I mean, I was well aware of being a woman right from the beginning, and I went into publishing and teaching because there are fewer obstacles for women in those professions than there are in lots of others.
What do people expect to get most out of the work they do with you, be it a course or when you're abroad?
Well, the business people always think they want to learn grammar and vocabulary. And to some extent they do, but what they really want to do is activate that and bring it to life. And more than that, what they really need to do is learn how to use the English they know more effectively. And a lot of that is interpersonal skills and techniques for getting other people to do all the talking, or listening well, or it's the skill work that they're weak on rather than the actual content of the language.
Susan, tell me what you're going to be doing for RCP Specials.
I'm going to be hosting the Global Manager feature, in which we'll be interviewing people from international business and offering tips and hints for learning business English.
Thank you very much, Susan. In our next edition of Global Manager, among other things, Susan Norman will be showing us the importance of body language and language learning. Don't miss it.
Hello, Pronunciation Hotline. Can I help you?
Pronunciation Hotline.
What do you do?
I'm in banking. I deal with investments. I have a degree in law.
I'm in publishing. I do computer graphics. I have a diploma in media studies.
I'm in advertising, and I do market research. I have a master's in psychology.
And now you say them.
I'm in banking. I deal with investments. I have a degree in law.
I'm in publishing. I do computer graphics. I have a diploma in media studies.
I'm in advertising. I do market research. I have a master's in psychology.
Summing up.
I'd like to carry on talking about the two main grammar points we focused on in the last two lessons. The first is the present progressive. Remember?
What are you doing?
I'm making a list.
I found them. They're sleeping with their heads on the table.
Let's compare this tense with the simple present tense. Look at these two examples. What are you doing? What do you do? Now let's see how very different the answers to these two questions are.
What are you doing in York today?
I'm just visiting.
What do you do?
I'm a computer operator.
What do you do?
I'm a pharmacist.
And what are you doing in York today?
Just having a holiday, looking around.
Did you get the difference? What are you doing is about what you're doing today, at the moment. What do you do is about what you do in life, what work you do. This is the essential difference between the two tenses. The present progressive describes actions or situations that are temporary, that are happening around the present moment. For example, I'm talking to you. You're listening to me. The simple present tense describes an activity that is habitual, that happens regularly, or that is always true. For example, I read a lot. The sun rises in the east. Now let's move on to our second grammar point, which is do as an auxiliary verb. We saw how it's used to form questions.
Do I look nice?
But does he speak English? Apparently not.
Now I'd like to have a look at how do is used to form the negative. We saw a number of examples in our first two lessons of video English.
How much do you smoke a day, may I ask?
I don't smoke cigarettes.
Oh, what do you smoke?
A pipe.
It's very difficult. I don't understand her. She doesn't understand me. And she's so impatient.
So it's a question of putting don't, or doesn't in the case of the third person singular, before the verb. I'd like to show you some more examples of this in a song, a love song, but one with a difference.
He doesn't look like Cary Grant, but I don't care for looks. He doesn't read philosophy. There's more to life than books. He doesn't dress like Fred Astaire. He doesn't have much style. But what I love about him is the sweetness of his smile. He's my guy. No one else would ever do. He's big and strong and gentle too, and not too proud to cry. He's my guy. Don't ask me why. I love him, I just do. They say that love is blind. That may be true, but he's my guy. He doesn't sing romantic songs, but singing's for the birds. He doesn't write me poetry. He isn't into words. My friends don't think he's right for me. They're frightened of his size. But I don't care, because I love the twinkle in his eyes. He's my guy, and no one else would ever do. He's big and strong and gentle too, and not too proud to cry. He's my guy. Don't ask me why. I love him, I just do. They say that love is blind. That may be true, but he's my guy.
Well, I said it was a love song with a difference. But there were lots of examples of do as it is used to form the negative. Learn them. William, see you around.
I hope you enjoyed this special edition of Video English. Make sure you're with us next week when we'll be back at Gostwick Hall for another episode of Hotel. See you then. Goodbye.